Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Sam, I'm a romance author based in the UK, and today I'm going to tell you how I got published. Now I'm going to caveat this very, very heavily. Mine is an atypical journey. It is not one that most people are going to find successful or helpful, but I get a lot of questions about it and I want to be really honest and transparent on this channel. And I don't believe in gatekeeping these kinds of things. So I am going to tell you, I'm just prefacing it by saying I don't know how helpful you will find it because it was a very unique journey that would be unproductive for a lot of people. So in 2015, I moved to the UK to get my creative writing degree at the University of Roehampton in London. One of the things that attracted me to that program was that I could take my classes in the evenings, allowing me the daytime to work or do whatever I wanted to do. And in my case, that was apply for work experience at HarperCollins. I started off working in the children's department with just a 4-week placement, and that was really, really brilliant. Got me in the door. It was wonderful. The CEO bought me a coffee on my first day of work because he asked me what department I was working in, and I told him children's, and then I asked what department he worked in. He's like, I'm on the executive team. And I was like, oh, cool. And then I realized he was the CEO. So that was embarrassing, but I got a coffee out of it, so it was fine. After my month in children's, I then moved over to do an internship at what was then called Harper Impulse, which was a digital-first romance imprint at HarperCollins. Now, what digital-first means is that it's not a traditional publishing model in the sense that it's not going through booksellers. It's going primarily through digital first sellers like Amazon, also Nook or Kobo or other e-reader first platforms. And the paperbacks that were produced would be paperbacks on demand, which means they're not being stocked at booksellers. It's also an unagented list, which means that people were able to submit directly to the publisher. Now, I was working doing like a combination of things. I started off just doing marketing, but really quickly started working on the submission pile as well, because at the time it was just the editor, Charlotte, and myself. I then left that internship in March of 2016 after about 6 months with Charlotte because it was time for me to focus on my dissertation. Now, while I was there, of course, my colleagues knew that I was doing a creative writing degree. And at the time, I thought that I wanted to work full-time in publishing. However, by the time that I finished my degree, I had met my now husband and was moving out of London to be with him. And because publishing is so central to London in the UK, and this was pre-COVID when hybrid working and remote working wasn't really as much of a thing, especially in big companies like that, there weren't any job opportunities for me full-time if I were moving outside of London. They did offer for me to come on at the publisher if I wanted to be in London, but I wasn't going to be in London, so what can you do? I did end up freelancing for them though. I did a combination of marketing and editorial work, both for Harper Impulse and for another digital first imprint at HarperCollins. And it was actually while I was working on my dissertation, so before I even started freelancing, that my former boss told me that she had an idea for a story that she thought I should consider writing. It wasn't a fully formed idea by any means. It was actually just, I want a book set in Santorini. And I was like, not gonna say no to that. So I started writing, and it took me a long time to write the book because I was finding my feet with work and living in a new city and stuff like that. But eventually I created The Summer House in Santorini, which is my first book. By that point, the team had grown to more people and I got to work with a wonderful editor, and then it was published. Because the first book did fairly well, I then was asked to write a sequel, which I have done and is coming out in March of 2023. And I'm now working on my 3rd, 4th, and 5th books, which are part of a series. That imprint is no longer called Harper Impulse, it's called One More Chapter, and they publish not only romance, but also crime and thriller, historical, more upmarket fiction. They are still a primarily digital first focused list. However, they are adapting more to like a traditional publishing model in a lot of ways. There are still a lot of authors on the list who are unagented, myself included, but they don't accept submissions at the moment. So maybe now you can see why sometimes it's really hard for me to answer the question, oh, how did you get published? Because the answer is kind of, it was who I knew and not necessarily anything that I had done. I was very good at my job when I worked there, and I did show a few things to my then boss now publisher and friend, because I wanted her opinion on them, and they were like assignments for class and she knew I was doing university, but I didn't pitch myself in any kind of way. It was that relationship that created that opportunity for me. Now, the book has sold well, and it does kind of speak for itself in terms of my capability of being a romance author, but sometimes it's really difficult for me to talk about my publishing journey because it's not typical, and it's really easy for someone to be like, oh, well, she only got published because she knew the publisher. And that's kind of true. It doesn't diminish the success that I've had, but it does kind of sting when someone mentions that as a way of belittling the quality of the work that I've done or the fact that I've done it at all. If I had not been published in this way, I think I probably would have gone for a more traditional route. I was actually working in a very different genre for my dissertation, working in sort of the YA dystopian genre. But had I not had that opportunity, and had I not been able to dive headfirst into writing romance, I think I probably would have tried to finish what I was doing for my dissertation, and I would have pursued a traditional publishing route by getting an agent and then going to publishers. But nowadays there's so many ways to do it. There are lots of publishers that do a digital first approach and are open to non-agented authors, and you submit to them just like you would to an agent. Self-publishing is also a much bigger thing than it used to be. And it's hard to say whether I would have been successful without that opportunity, but I am very grateful for it, and I'm not ashamed of it. It's just an interesting thing to talk about when I know that what people are actually looking for is advice or something that they can follow, because that's not the journey that I've had. I do think that my experience working for a publisher has given me a lot of insight as to what publishers are looking for, what to expect from the editing process, and how to really maximize those opportunities and have conversations that are going to help you grow and sell more books. So I hope you'll stick around for me to discuss some of those things with you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any of that. I hope I've answered your burning question about my publishing journey, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.